cold millionaire never blinked at anyone until a poor girl knocked a knife from a thief's hand. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. Rain hammered the crowded alleyway, blurring headlights and drowning out the noise of the city. Lena clutched her thin jacket tighter and hurried toward her night shift, weaving through people who only wanted to go home. She was 2 minutes late. Her supervisor would yell again. She quickened her pace until a sharp scream cut through the storm. A man in a suit stood a few steps ahead, frozen beneath a flickering street lamp. A thief pressed a knife to his ribs. People scattered instantly, pushing past Lena, choosing safety over concern. But what made her heart stop wasn't the blade. It was the man's eyes. They didn't widen. They didn't flinch. He simply stared straight ahead, unblinking, as if the danger didn't apply to him, as if he couldn't feel anything at all. Lena should have run too. She wasn't brave, wasn't trained, wasn't anyone special. But her feet moved before her thoughts caught up. She charged forward, swinging the cheap canvas bag in her hand. The thief jerked back in surprise as the bag slammed into his wrist, sending the knife skidding across the wet pavement. People gasped. The thief cursed and shoved past her, disappearing into the darkness. Only then did the man move, not in fear, not in relief. He bent to pick up the fallen knife, examining it with a strange calmness, turning it as if analyzing its weight. Then he lifted his gaze to her sharp, cold, assessing. "Why did you risk your life?" he asked quietly. "People don't do that for strangers." Lena's breath came in broken gasps as the adrenaline faded. She wiped water from her forehead, unsure if it was rain or sweat. I don't know. You were about to be stabbed," he finished, voice flat. "Yes." And she blinked. What kind of question was that? Her heart still raced, but the man in the immaculate charcoal suit looked as composed as if he had stepped out of a board meeting, not a mugging. His hair wasn't even out of place. Police sirens wailed in the distance. People filtered back, murmuring about the incident. A small crowd formed, whispering that the man looked familiar, that he might be someone important. Lena didn't care who he was. She just wanted to get to work before she lost her job. "Are you hurt?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "No." His reply was clipped. He wasn't rude exactly, just detached. An officer jogged over, breath fogging in the cold air. Lena tried to explain what she had seen, stumbling over her words. The man stood beside her in stillness, his voice as smooth and precise when giving details as if reading from a report. The officer thanked them and stepped away to radio his team. When Lena turned back, she found the man studying her again with unsettling focus. "You acted quickly," he said. "I didn't think," she admitted. "That much is clear." Heat crept into her cheeks. She didn't know whether to feel insulted or relieved. He reached into his coat and handed her a card. "Adrian Vale," he said simply. "If you experience any consequences from this, contact me." Lena froze. She knew that name. Everyone in the city did. CEO of Vale Holdings, youngest in his industry. Brilliant, ruthless, utterly unreadable. She looked down at the card again, thick, expensive, embossed, and suddenly regretted every awkward word she had said to him. Thank you," she murmured. He nodded once. "You prevented a complication." "I don't like complications." Before she could respond, his attention shifted past her shoulder. His expression sharpened, not with fear, but calculation. Lena followed his gaze. A man stood at the end of the alley, half hidden under an umbrella, watching them. The moment their eyes met, he stepped back and vanished behind the corner. "Do you know him?" Lena asked. "No," Adrian said, but something in his tone felt like a lie. She needed to go. Her manager would be furious. "I should leave," she said softly. Adrian gave a brief incline of his head. "Get home safely." It sounded less like concern and more like an instruction. Lena hurried away, the rain masking everything except the sound of her pounding heart. She rubbed her arms to fight the chill, telling herself that everything was over, that she had stumbled into something that wasn't her business. She saved a stranger. End of story. But 3 blocks later, as she reached her workplace door, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Unknown number. A single message. You shouldn't have interfered. Her fingers went numb. The night suddenly felt much darker than before. Lena barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the knife flashing in the rain, the unblinking eyes of the strange CEO, and the final message glowing on her phone screen like a warning carved into her mind. By morning, her stomach twisted with dread. She dragged herself to work anyway, convincing herself it had to be a prank. People didn't threaten nobodies like her girls who scrubbed floors and served coffee and worked 3 part-time jobs to pay rent. But when she stepped through the front door of the cafe, everyone was staring. "Oh my God, it's the girl from the video," someone whispered. "What video?" Lena asked, confused, but a coworker already shoved a phone toward her. There she was, blurry from the rain, swinging her canvas bag at the thief, like someone who had everything to lose and no idea how close she was to dying. The clip had over 20,000 views already. Comments flooded the screen. "Staged. She's probably trying to get famous. That's Adrian Vale. Why would a random girl save him? Looks like a setup." Lena's throat tightened. It wasn't just strangers online. Even her coworkers looked at her differently, some impressed, some skeptical, some annoyed that she'd suddenly become interesting. "It wasn't staged," she muttered, but no one listened. Halfway through her shift, her manager approached with an awkward smile. "A corporate assistant called earlier," he said. "For you." Lena blinked. "Me?" She said her boss wants to schedule a meeting. Something about proper follow-up. Sounds serious. Her heart dropped. Proper follow-up. What did that even mean? Before she could ask more, her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a threat. It was an email, polished, formal, intimidatingly perfect from Mr. Vale's executive office, requesting she come to his headquarters that afternoon. By the time Lena stood in the towering lobby of Vale Holdings, she felt smaller than she had in years. Everything gleamed: marble floors, glass elevators, quiet efficiency everywhere. She didn't belong here. She didn't even own clothes without frayed seams. "Miss Hart," a receptionist called. "Mr. Vale will see you now." She followed her into a private elevator that shot upward with nerve-wracking speed. The doors opened onto a silent hallway lined with abstract art she couldn't decipher. At the end, Adrian Vale waited, hands behind his back posture, perfect expression unreadable. "Thank you for coming," he said, though it sounded more like a command than gratitude. Lena swallowed hard. "Your assistant said you wanted to see me." "I want to understand your decision," he said. "Most people would have run." "I didn't think," she replied. Clearly, the same cold bluntness as last night. She looked down, embarrassed. "Are you upset?" "No." He paused. "Just curious." He gestured for her to sit. His office was huge, with a skyline view that made Lena dizzy. Adrian remained standing, studying her as if she were a puzzle with missing pieces. "You reacted faster than the attacker," he said. "Have you trained in self-defense? Number, any history of impulsive behavior?" "What? No." Adrian nodded slowly, as if noting her answers in his mind. "Then your reaction is fascinating." Fascinating. Was she an experiment? "You're welcome," Lena said sharply. "I mean, I did stop you from being stabbed." Adrian blinked once, maybe twice, the first time she'd seen him react at all. "I appreciate the interruption," he said. Interruption, not help, not saving, just interruption. Before she could respond, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, jaw tightening. "There is another matter. Regarding your safety." "My what?" Adrian walked to the wall and tapped a screen. A video feed played the alley from last night, the moments leading up to the attack. But this time, Lena noticed something she hadn't before. The thief didn't run straight toward Adrian. He changed direction, shifting toward Lena the moment she stepped into the frame. Her breath hitched. "Why? Why is he looking at me?" Adrian turned off the video. "We don't know yet, but the message you received last night suggests intent." Lena felt faint. "You think someone is trying to hurt me?" "Why would anyone? People are hurt every day for reasons they don't understand." His voice softened just a fraction. "But you're not imagining it. Someone is following you." Lena hugged her arms around herself. "You're telling me this now. You're here now," Adrian replied. "It's safer to tell you in person." She stared at him, searching for reassurance. Any reassurance. There was none in his expression, only cold logic. "So what do I do?" she whispered. Adrian reached into a drawer and handed her a sleek black phone. "Use this number if anything unusual happens, day or night. Why would you help me?" He hesitated, eyes flicking over her face as if weighing something. "Because this situation involves me," he finally said. Directly or indirectly? Not an answer, not a real one. Lena stood. "I don't want trouble. I just want my life back." "I'm aware," he said quietly, "but trouble has already found you." She left his office feeling more watched than ever. On the elevator ride down, her palms were slick with sweat. Every reflection in the glass made her jump. Every shadow seemed sharper. When she stepped outside, rain threatening to fall again, she caught sight of a dark car parked across the street. Its headlights flashed twice deliberately. She froze. The car didn't move. Someone inside was watching. Lena forced her legs to work, hurrying down the block, heart hammering. She didn't dare look back. That night, she checked every lock in her apartment 3 times. She kept the phone Adrian gave her on the table screen glowing in the dark like a silent warning. Just as she started to drift into an uneasy sleep, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Stay out of this. Her blood ran cold. She wasn't in anything. She didn't know anything, but someone out there believed she did. Lena slammed her apartment door shut and locked it twice. The hallway outside was quiet, but her nerves buzzed like static. She stood there for a moment with her forehead pressed to the wood, trying to breathe normally. It didn't work. Her hands still shook. She turned every lock again just to be sure. Her apartment was small, cramped, and cluttered, but tonight it felt unbearably exposed. She pulled the curtains shut and checked the windows, tugging at them to make sure they were sealed. Even her own reflection in the glass made her flinch. She kept seeing the man in the dark car, the umbrella shadow in the alley, the thief changing direction toward her, instead of Adrian Vale. It made no sense. Nothing made sense. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Another message. She didn't dare look. She needed something familiar, something steady, so she went to the shelf above her bed and pulled down a dusty plastic box, her father's belongings. She hadn't opened it in months. When she set it on the bed, something slid out from underneath the lid. A folded paper. Lena frowned. She didn't remember putting anything there. She unfolded it slowly. 4 words stared back at her in heavy, deliberate handwriting. "Stop asking questions." Her skin prickled. She looked toward the window again, checking for a silhouette, a shadow, anything. The hallway outside remained silent. No footsteps, no voices, no signs of life. But the note hadn't been there before. And her father's handwriting. It was his. She recognized the way he pressed too hard on the pen, always leaving grooves in the paper. The realization hit her like a blow. Was this a warning he left for her years ago? Or had someone slipped it under her door today? A faint watermark caught her eye. She held it up to the lamp. There, barely visible, was a logo, a stylized H with jagged edges. Her heart stopped. Harwood Finance. Her father's old company. The company that collapsed in scandal shortly before he disappeared. She opened the plastic box with trembling fingers. Inside were things she had avoided touching for years: his old employee badge, a few photos, a notebook, and a sealed envelope addressed to her. She froze. She didn't remember this envelope. With a shaky breath, Lena tore it open. Inside was a single page. "Lena, if you're reading this, something has happened. I'm sorry. I tried to fix what I helped break. If they come for you, leave immediately. Don't trust anyone involved in this, not the company, not the people around it. I'm sorry for the danger. Please forgive me." Halfway down the page, a sentence had been heavily crossed out, so violently the ink ripped the paper. "They won't stop until..." The rest was unreadable. Lena sat on the bed, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. She covered her eyes with one hand and whispered, "Dad, what did you get into?" A sudden knock on her door made her jump. She went rigid, breath caught in her throat. 3 seconds passed. Then she realized it was the neighbor from across the hall, just dropping off a misdelivered package. She forced a laugh, accepted it, closed the door, and locked it again. She couldn't stay here. She needed answers. Her mind flashed to the only person who knew something: Adrian Vale. She hesitated, then grabbed the sleek black phone he had given her and dialed the number. He picked up on the first ring. Lena. His voice was calm, too calm. Something's wrong, she whispered. Can we meet? 20 minutes later, they sat in a quiet booth of an empty cafe. The windows were fogged from the cold. Adrian watched her with the same sharp, assessing eyes, but tonight there was something else, a tension she couldn't name. She handed him the note, the envelope, and the badge. Adrian studied them without a word. Then he tapped his fingers once on the table. Your father worked in Harwood's data division. Yes. Do you know what kind of data? She shook her head. He slid a tablet across the table. Open news archives, financial records, internal memos. Lena's head spun. Harwood Finance was involved in large-scale money laundering, he said quietly. When the company collapsed, several employees vanished, including your father. She felt the floor tilt. Vanished. Adrian nodded. Some willingly, some not. He pulled up another file, this one older, faded. A photo of a man in a suit standing in front of a building. Her father, younger, smiling, unaware of the storm ahead. Adrian pointed to the bottom corner of the photo. A faint figure stood in the background, blurry, hard to identify, but Lena felt the air leave her lungs. He was wearing a silver watch. Her voice cracked. That man, was he following my father too? Possibly, Adrian said. Possibly more. A tremor ran through her arms. Why me? Why now? Someone believes your father left something behind, something they want, like what evidence Adrian said. Data, records, something that could destroy them. Lena pressed a hand to her forehead. This is insane. Adrian leaned forward. Listen to me. The thief wasn't after me. She slowly lifted her eyes to his. He changed direction the moment he saw you. You were the target. Lena swallowed hard. So, I'm in danger because of something my father did, because of something your father knew. She shook her head, overwhelmed. I don't know anything. I barely remember half of what he talked about. He just disappeared. Adrian's expression shifted, still controlled, but with a small undertone she hadn't seen before. Concern. You're not alone in this, he said quietly. She looked down at the badge, the envelope, the memories she had tried to bury. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel strong. She felt like the girl from the video swinging a canvas bag at something much bigger than her. When they stepped outside the cafe, cold wind bit at their faces. Adrian stood rigid, scanning the street as a precaution. Let me take you home, he said. Lena nodded. But just as they approached the curb, Adrian stiffened. A tall man stood across the street, half hidden beneath a hood. Rain began to fall again, dripping off the edge of the fabric. His posture was casual. His gaze was not. He lifted his hand slightly as if greeting Lena. The streetlight glinted off his wrist. A silver watch. Adrian's voice dropped into a cold whisper. He used to work with me. The man didn't move, didn't speak. He just smiled, a slow, knowing smile. And Lena realized with a chilling certainty he wasn't watching Adrian. He was watching her. Lena didn't argue when Adrian insisted she leave her apartment. She barely had time to stuff essentials into a backpack before he was ushering her down the stairwell, his hand firm around her wrist, movement sharp and efficient. She felt like she was being extracted from a crime scene rather than from her tiny home. The night air was cold, but the tension rolling off Adrian was colder. They slipped into his car and drove in silence. The city lights smeared into streaks of gold as they sped down the highway, then off it, winding through quiet roads until buildings gave way to trees. Lena didn't ask where they were going. She was too busy scanning the mirrors, half expecting the man with the silver watch to appear in the darkness behind them. After nearly 30 minutes, the car rolled through iron gates and up a long, curved driveway. A secluded apartment building, private, modern, surrounded by unnerving silence, sat at the center of manicured grounds. Adrian parked and stepped out, checking the perimeter with a subtle flick of his eyes before motioning for Lena to follow. Inside, the lobby was immaculate and empty. This building is owned by Vale Holdings, Adrian said. Only trusted security staff work here. Lena wasn't sure if that reassured her or made her even more aware of just how unstable her reality had become. He led her to an upper floor and unlocked a spacious apartment with minimalist furniture and gleaming surfaces. It was beautiful, sterile, but beautiful, It felt like stepping into another universe. "You'll stay here," Adrian said. "It's secure." Lena walked slowly around the living room, trailing her fingers across the back of the couch. Everything felt too clean, too perfect, like the kind of place meant for someone who didn't make mistakes or leave fingerprints. "Does anyone else live here?" she asked. "No, but it doesn't look lived in." "It's not." That answered nothing and everything at once. As Adrian explained the security system, cameras, reinforced doors, emergency protocols. Lena tried to listen, but a sudden flicker on one of the hallway monitors caught her attention. The image glitched for a second, a burst of static interrupting the feed. "What was that?" she asked quickly. "Interference," Adrian said. "It happens," but something in his tone told her interference shouldn't happen. Not here. He finished the walkthrough and stopped in front of a closed door. He didn't touch it. He didn't even glance at it for long. But Lena noticed the tightness in his shoulders. "What's in that room?" she asked softly. "Storage," he said too quickly. She didn't press, but the way he avoided the door put a knot in her chest. They moved to the kitchen, where he surprised her by pouring 2 glasses of water. The gesture was so normal, it felt strange coming from someone who behaved like a machine disguised as a man. Lena cleared her throat. "Earlier today, you reacted when you saw that man, Marcus Hale." Adrian's jaw flexed. "Yes. You said he worked with you, in the past, and my father worked for Harwood Finance. Are those connected somehow? Because right now everything feels like it's spiraling." Adrian remained silent for a long moment, staring out the window at the empty street below. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Your father's company was involved in a complex financial scheme. Harwood Finance collapsed under investigations of money laundering, fraud, and illegal transfers. A handful of employees disappeared before authorities could question them. Your father was one of them." Lena gripped the edge of the counter. "My dad wasn't a criminal." "He may not have wanted to be one," Adrian answered calmly, "but he was in a position to see things he shouldn't have seen. That alone put him in danger." Her throat tightened. Memories of her father, late nights, tired eyes, whispered phone calls flashed in her mind. She had been too young to understand the fear behind his forced smile. "And Marcus," she whispered. Adrian's expression darkened. "Marcus worked with a network of investors who used Harwood's channels to move money off the books. My company partnered with Harwood briefly years ago, before I discovered irregularities. Marcus was the one who introduced the deal. When the scandal broke, Marcus vanished, just like my father," Lena murmured. A heavy silence settled between them. She sat on the couch and pulled out her father's old notebook from her bag. She hadn't meant to bring it, but something compelled her to grab it in her panic. Adrian sat beside her, leaving a respectful distance. "Look at this," Lena said, flipping to a familiar page. "My dad used to mark his work notes with strange symbols. I never knew what they meant." Adrian examined the scribbles. "These are directory codes, access points for encrypted data." "Data? What kind of data?" "The kind that gets people killed," Adrian said simply. Her heart dropped. A piece of folded paper slipped from the back of the notebook when she turned a page. She unfolded it slowly. It was a photocopy of the same H logo from the threatening note, but beneath it was a set of numbers. "Locker numbers." "Adrian," she said quietly. "What if my father didn't just disappear? What if he hid something?" Adrian leaned closer. "What if he left something behind that Marcus needs now?" The room felt suddenly too small, too bright. Lena pressed her palm to her forehead, trying to breathe. The apartment's intercom buzzed suddenly. She flinched so hard she nearly dropped the paper. Adrian stood instantly, body shifting into full alertness. He moved to the screen. A security guard appeared on the video feed. "Sir, we detected unusual traffic in the system. Someone attempted a remote login before the firewall blocked it." Lena's blood ran cold. "Is it him?" she whispered. "It's possible," Adrian said. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out slowly. "Location accessed, unknown device." Adrian snatched the phone gently from her hands and powered it off. "They're tracking you," he said. "Not just following you, monitoring you." Lena felt her knees weaken. "Why me?" "Because your father left something," Adrian said grimly. "Something they want back." He crossed to the door, locking it with a code she didn't recognize. "You're staying here tonight. No arguments." Lena watched him studying the rare crack in his facade. His eyes, usually cold and impossible to read, held a tension she'd never seen before. A flicker of worry. "Adrian," she said softly. "Are you afraid?" He paused, just enough to notice. "No," he said, "but I'm paying attention." She wasn't sure if that made her feel safer or more exposed. He stepped into the hallway, checking the other rooms. The door to the one he avoided earlier remained shut, a silent barrier to whatever truth was on the other side. She moved toward the window, exhaling shakily. The street below was empty except for a dark figure leaning against a parked car, head tilted upward, as if he could see straight into her apartment. A metallic glint caught the light. A silver watch. Lena stumbled backward. Adrian. But when she looked again, the figure was gone. Adrian returned to the apartment with a storm in his expression, the kind Lena hadn't seen before. Not anger, not fear, but something colder, sharper. He shut the door behind him with careful precision, as if slamming it might break the thin line of control he held onto. Lena stood from the couch immediately. What happened? Adrian didn't answer at first. He walked past her, went straight to the security panel, and pulled up a series of logs. His fingers moved quickly, too quickly, scrolling through timestamps and encrypted messages. Finally he spoke. 3 unauthorized access attempts, all within the last 48 hours. Lena's stomach twisted. To what? The building, to the network, Adrian said. To anything that could tell them where you are. He tapped a key and a grainy video from the alley flickered onto the screen. The moment before the thief attacked, he looked directly at a nearby camera and nodded. Not to himself, to someone watching. Lena's breath caught. He signaled someone. Yes. Adrian's voice was flat. This wasn't random. She hugged her arms, suddenly cold. Then who was he working for? Adrian's jaw tightened. Someone with resources, someone with a reason. He switched to another log, then another. Finally, he stopped on a name highlighted in red. Marcus Hale. The sight of the name made Lena's pulse jump. That man from the street. Yes, Adrian said quietly. I confirmed it. The man wearing the silver watch is Marcus Hale. Lena sat down as if her legs couldn't hold her anymore. You said he used to work with you. He did. Adrian didn't look at her when he answered, and with Harwood Finance, for years. Her heart dropped. My father's company. Your father's company, Adrian confirmed. A heavy silence filled the room. Lena forced herself to ask, what exactly did Marcus do? Adrian's eyes darkened. Everything Harwood was accused of. Money laundering, yes. Fraud, yes. People disappearing? Adrian hesitated. Yes, Lena. She felt sick. So Marcus might have been involved in my father's disappearance. He might have orchestrated it. Lena pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting a wave of nausea. How much had her father seen? What had he known? Why had he left her behind with only cryptic warnings? Adrian stepped closer, but not enough to touch her. There's more. He pulled out the printed still frame from the video police had taken the night Adrian's younger brother died. A blurry parking lot, a young man on the ground, and in the corner, barely visible, a figure in a coat, his wrist catching the light, a silver watch. Lena felt her chest tighten. Adrian. My brother found inconsistencies in Harwood's financial reports, Adrian said, voice lower than she had ever heard it. He tried to warn me. I didn't listen. A week later, he was killed. No evidence, no witnesses, except that image. Lena covered her mouth. And you recognized the watch last night. I recognized the man Adrian corrected, Marcus Hale. A chilling realization hit her. So the same man who murdered your brother is now after me. Adrian nodded once, controlled, precise. But beneath it, she sensed the crack in his composure, anger simmering just below the surface. Her hands trembled. Why me? Why now? Because of this. He handed her the notebook she had shown him earlier. Lena flipped it open. The scribbled symbols now felt menacing alive. These notations, Adrian continued, are access points. Data map references. Your father found something in Harwood's servers, something that made him dangerous to Marcus. Lena swallowed hard. So he hid something. Yes, Adrian said, and Marcus wants it back. She shook her head. But why target me? I don't know anything. Marcus thinks you might, Adrian said, or that your father might have left something with you. Lena looked down at her hands, remembering the old metal key at the bottom of her father's box, remembering how he told her never to give it away. The key she hadn't yet shown Adrian. Adrian watched her, sensing the shift. Lena, what is it? Nothing, she lied quickly. Too quickly. He didn't push, but he didn't believe her. A knock rattled the apartment suddenly. Lena gasped and jumped back. Adrian moved faster than she had seen him move before, crossing the space, turning off the lights, pulling her behind him in one fluid motion. He checked the camera feed. A uniformed guard stood outside the door. Adrian cracked the door open. "Report, sir," the guard said. "We detected an internal breach. The hack attempt didn't come from outside. It originated from within the compound." Lena's heart pounded. "Someone inside the building, someone on the inside helped Marcus locate you," Adrian said, voice icy. He shut the door, locked it with 3 different codes, and stepped back into the dim room, where Lena waited, pale and trembling. "You're not safe here," he said. "And you," she whispered. "I can handle myself." But this time, Lena wasn't so sure. There was something different about him tonight, something fierce, protective, almost human in its intensity. Another alert flashed across the monitor. Someone was moving toward the upper floors toward them. Adrian scanned the feed, eyes narrowing. "It's him." Lena stared at the screen. One frame just before the feed crackled out showed a man stepping out of the elevator. Tall, hooded, a flash of silver at his wrist. The screen went black. Adrian turned to Lena, his voice low, steady, and frighteningly calm. "He found us." Adrian didn't waste a second. "Get your things," he said, already moving toward the security panel. "We're leaving. Now." Lena didn't argue. She jammed her phone, notebook, and the few belongings she had into her backpack, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped everything. The elevator was too dangerous, so Adrian led her down the back stairwell, his steps silent, purposeful, controlled. Every few seconds he checked over his shoulder, as if calculating escape routes she couldn't even see. The building's garage was dim, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead. As they crossed toward Adrian's car, Lena noticed him subtly shifting his body to block her view of the darker corners, shielding her from shadows she couldn't identify. When they reached the car, Adrian opened the passenger door quickly. "Get in." She did, but the moment he rounded the front of the car, she heard footsteps behind them. "Adrian," he spun, stepping between her and the approaching figure. A guard emerged into the light. "Mr. Vale's systems are—" Before he could finish, Adrian cut him off with a curt gesture. "Update me later." He slid into the driver's seat and locked the doors. As they pulled out of the garage, Lena looked back. For a brief second, too quick to be sure, she saw someone step out from behind a concrete pillar. Someone tall, someone watching. She shivered. The drive out of the city was tense and silent. Adrian's grip on the steering wheel was too tight, his jaw set in a way she hadn't seen before. This wasn't cold professionalism. This was something closer to fear, though he'd never admit it. After nearly an hour, they turned onto a forest road lined with towering trees. The rain had stopped, but the world felt heavier weighted. Eventually, a hidden gate appeared ahead, and the car slowed. A retinal scanner blinked blue as Adrian leaned toward it. The gate opened. They drove into a secluded estate surrounded by trees so dense they formed a natural wall. A modern villa came into view, sleek architecture, tinted windows, and quiet power. Lena swallowed. "This is your place?" "One of them," Adrian replied. "This one is off-grid." He parked beneath a covered awning, stepped out, and immediately scanned the surrounding forest. Only when he was satisfied did he motion for her to follow him inside. The interior was pristine and silent, with high ceilings and polished stone floors. It looked less like a home and more like a sanctuary, built for someone who didn't want to be found. "You'll be safe here," Adrian said. "You've said that before," Lena murmured. He didn't acknowledge the jab, but she saw the faint tension in his shoulders. He showed her around the mansion living room, kitchen, 2 guest rooms, an office, and at the far end a locked steel door. When he passed it, his posture stiffened. "What's in there?" Lena asked. "A secure room," Adrian replied. "Restricted access." He didn't elaborate. She didn't push. Later in the kitchen, he poured water for her again, a gesture that felt strangely intimate coming from someone who seemed incapable of softness. Lena sat across from him, studying the lines of fatigue at the edges of his eyes. "You're bleeding," she said suddenly. Adrian shook his head. "It's superficial. You don't even look at it. I don't feel it." The words hung there cold and honest. Lena bit her lip. "You told me you don't feel things normally." Why? Adrian didn't answer at first. He stared at the water glass in his hand, his fingers unmoving. "After my brother died," he said quietly, "I shut everything down. Emotions interfere with clarity. They cloud judgment. I learned to live without them." "But you're not without them," Lena said. "Not really." Adrian lifted his eyes to hers, and in that moment she saw a flicker, something raw, unguarded. She didn't know what to call it. He looked away first. "Eat something," he said. "You need strength." They ate in silence, though Lena noticed him glancing towards her every time the house creaked or the wind brushed against the windows. He didn't trust the quiet. She didn't either. After dinner, Adrian disappeared into his office and returned with a thin folder. "Your father's name appears in several deleted hardwood logs. Someone tried to erase him from the system." He laid out printed pages, communications, transactions, schedules. At the bottom of one sheet, barely visible, a handwritten note caught Lena's eye. 17A. Her breath hitched. "That's on the key," she whispered. Adrian straightened. "What key?" She hesitated. Then she pulled it from her bag and placed it on the table. Adrian picked it up, studying it with narrowed eyes. "This is a station locker key. My dad gave it to me right before he disappeared. He hid something," Adrian said, "and Marcus wants it." Before she could respond, the house lights flickered sharply, once, twice, 3 times. Adrian shot to his feet. "That's not the wind," he said. "That's a breach." An alarm began to pulse faintly through the walls. Adrian rushed to the control panel, typing in rapid commands. The system did not respond. "Someone has overridden the security protocol," Adrian muttered. "That shouldn't be possible." Lena's heartbeat pounded in her ears. "Marcus, he found a way in," Adrian said. "Or someone let him in." A new alert flashed on the screen in bold red letters. "Entry detected. South perimeter." Adrian grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the hallway. "We need to move." A crash echoed from somewhere downstairs, glass shattering. Lena froze. "He's inside." Adrian's voice lowered, firm, controlled. "Yes." Another sound followed, heavy footsteps approaching through the main hall. Adrian turned off the lights with a single switch, plunging them into darkness. He leaned close, breath steady against her ear. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." The footsteps grew louder. A slow, deliberate rhythm. A metallic reflection flashed across the floor, brief but unmistakable. A silver watch. Lena's breath trembled. Adrian shifted his stance, eyes fixed forward. Voice barely more than a whisper. "He found us." The footsteps on the hardwood floor didn't rush. They strolled slow and deliberate, a quiet taunt echoing through the darkened villa. Lena clutched Adrian's sleeve as he backed them down the hallway. His movements were precise, controlled, but she could feel the tension humming through him like a wire pulled tight. Marcus's voice drifted through the shadows, calm and almost amused. "Adrian, you always did like building cages. Shame they never worked on people." Adrian leaned close to her ear. "Left," he whispered. They moved silently, slipping around the corner just before a flashlight beam swept across the hall. Adrian guided her toward a reinforced door at the end of the panic room. Lena's heart thudded painfully in her chest as Marcus's footsteps drew nearer. They reached the door. Adrian typed a code in total darkness, fingers flying. The lock clicked open and he pushed her inside. The flashlight beam burst around the corner, landing just feet behind them. Adrian slammed the panic room door shut. Heavy metal sealed the space, drowning out the outside world except for 3 slow knocks against the steel. Marcus's voice carried through the intercom vent. "I know you're in there." Lena pressed herself back against the far wall, breath shallow. The panic room was small, barely large enough for both of them. A dim ceiling light flickered on, revealing steel walls, a control panel, and a cramped bench. Adrian stepped to the secondary console and began typing furiously. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, most of them flashing "Access denied." He's taken over the system, Adrian muttered. What does that mean? Lena whispered. It means he knows exactly where we are, and he's not leaving. Her fingers dug into her palms. Why is he doing this? What does he want from me? Adrian didn't answer at first. He stared at the dead camera feed, jaw locked. Then he turned to her with a look she hadn't seen before, something raw, bitter, haunted. He's done this before, he said quietly. To my brother. Lena went still. Tell me. The air felt heavier. Adrian sank onto the bench, elbows on his knees, hands clasped so tightly the knuckles whitened. He spoke with a voice that was too steady, too controlled, like he had rehearsed this truth for years and still couldn't soften it. My brother found irregularities in Harwood's financial ledgers, transfers that didn't add up. I dismissed his concerns, and he was young and idealistic, and I thought he was imagining threats where there were none. His eyes hardened. I was wrong. Marcus's voice broke through the intercom again. Your brother begged Adrian. He begged you to show up. Lena flinched, but Adrian didn't move. He continued quietly, as if Marcus's words no longer mattered. My brother arranged a meeting with Marcus the night he died. I was supposed to go with him. I didn't. I thought he was overreacting. I told him to cancel. Adrian's chest rose with a long, controlled breath. He went anyway. Lena swallowed hard. And Marcus? Adrian didn't need to finish. Silence tightened around them until Lena whispered, Adrian, your brother's death wasn't your fault. But Adrian's eyes darkened. I didn't listen. I dismissed him. That is my responsibility. A metallic clang hit the panic room door, making Lena jump. Marcus laughed low and quiet through the vent. You're sentimental tonight, Adrian. How unlike you. Adrian ignored him and stood placing a hand on the panel. The lights flickered again and the screen shifted to an audio file. Lena recognized the voice instantly, her father. A terrified whisper. If you hear this, Marcus isn't working alone. Lena covered her mouth. My dad tried to warn someone. He knew they were coming for him. Adrian nodded grimly, and he may have known they'd come for you. The intercom buzzed again. Metal scraped against metal on the other side. Marcus was using a cutting tool. He's breaching the lock, Adrian said. We have minutes at most. Fear slammed through her. We're trapped. Not necessarily. Adrian moved to a hidden floor panel, pulling it open. There's maintenance access behind this. It leads to the eastern hallway. He paused. It's tight. You'll have to crawl. She stared down into the dark shaft, then at him. What about you? I'll be behind you. But something in his tone made her doubt he meant it. Before she could argue, the metal door behind them screeched under pressure, the lock beginning to melt from the tool Marcus was using. We don't have time, Adrian urged. Go. Lena forced herself down the narrow shaft, breath echoing loudly in the cramped space. Adrian followed, closing the panel behind them. Halfway through, a thunderous crack shook the passage. Marcus had broken through. Adrian whispered sharply, Move, Lena, don't look back. She scrambled forward, heart thrashing violently, hearing Marcus's footsteps entering the panic room they'd just escaped. Then Marcus's voice echoed faintly through the vents. You can run, Adrian, but the girl stays with me. A cold wave slammed through her. She clawed her way forward faster until her hands hit another panel. Adrian reached past her, shoved it open, and they spilled into a dark hallway outside the panic room. We have to get upstairs, Adrian said, grabbing her hand. There's a secondary exit. What if he's already there? Then we make another plan. They sprinted through the dark corridor. Behind them, Marcus's footsteps moved with eerie calm, as if he had no doubt he'd catch them. When they reached the stairs, Lena hesitated, chest heaving. Why is he doing this? Why go this far? Adrian turned to her eyes, blazing with something sharp, something human. Because your father hid something he needs. And because he thinks killing you will erase the last loose end. Lena felt her whole world tilt. And because Adrian said quietly, he wants to finish what he started with my brother. The sound of metal striking concrete rang out below. Marcus had found the hallway. Adrian tightened his grip on her hand. We're getting out, he said. Both of us. But before they could climb the stairs, a harsh electronic voice boomed through the villa's speakers. 10 minutes until full lock override. Lena's heart stopped. Marcus's laugh followed, echoing from somewhere in the darkness. Tick-tock, Adrian. The countdown echoed through the walls. 10 minutes, then 9:59, 9:58. each second a hammer against Lena's ribs. Adrian didn't waste time. He grabbed her hand and pulled her up the stairs, moving with the urgency of a man who had spent years preparing for this exact nightmare. At the top of the staircase, he pushed open a narrow door that led into a maintenance corridor. "This way," he said, guiding her toward a panel on the wall. He removed the cover and exposed a backup control unit. "If I can override the internal locks, we can reach the service tunnel," he muttered. But the system's compromised. Another tremor shook the house, Marcus testing doors, searching room by room. Lena glanced behind them. "He's going to find us again, not if we move faster." But as Adrian worked, the intercom crackled to life. Marcus's voice spilled through it like poison. "You can't hide the key forever, girl." Lena froze. "He knows." Adrian turned sharply. "We don't talk about anything, not out loud." After 30 agonizing seconds, the control unit beeped. A hidden panel on the wall slid open, revealing a cramped passage barely large enough to crawl through. Adrian gestured. "Go." She didn't argue. She crawled forward, her knees scraping metal, her breath echoing. Adrian followed, closing the hatch behind them. The tunnel vibrated under another distant impact, Marcus breaking through another door. They emerged into a dim mechanical room behind the mansion's library. Adrian helped her down and moved immediately to the shelves, pulling aside a row of books to reveal a concealed steel door. Lena whispered, "Another panic room," he said. "Something else." He keyed in a sequence and the door slid open, revealing a space lined with locked drawers that showed servers and scattered files. The room was small but fortified like a bunker for secrets. Lena shivered. "What is this place?" "My contingency," Adrian replied, "for when things go wrong." He crossed to a central table where documents lay in disarray. Marcus had been there. Papers were scattered. A drawer yanked open, contents spilled across the floor. Adrian sifted through it all with tense, precise movements. Lena hesitated at the threshold. "He was in here." "Yes," Adrian said. "And he didn't find what he wanted, which means you still have it." Her fingers drifted unconsciously toward the pocket where the Septon key lay hidden. She didn't pull it out. Not yet. Adrian rifled through the debris until he found a single page left untouched on the table. He lifted it carefully. "Locker 17A. He didn't get far. Lena's breath hitched. "That's my father's handwriting." Adrian nodded. He retrieved data from Harwood Finance and hid it somewhere he thought no one would search. "A locker in an abandoned station," Lena whispered. "Yes," Adrian said, "and Marcus wants whatever is inside." A sudden screech upstairs made them both freeze. Marcus had breached another section of the house. Adrian stepped closer to Lena. "We're running out of time. We need the key." Her hand shook as she pulled it out. Seeing it in the dim light, the worn metal, the faded Septon etched into it, made her father's voice echo in her head. "If anyone asks about the key, run." Adrian examined it briefly, then looked at her. Not the key, her. "Your father died protecting this," he said, "and maybe protecting you." Lena blinked tears away. He shouldn't have been alone. For the first time, Adrian's expression softened, an emotion flickering beneath the frost. No one should. The moment was shattered by a harsh blare from the alarm system. Entry detected basement level. Adrian cursed under his breath. "He's coming from below. We need to exit through the yard." They hurried toward the rear corridor, but the intercom buzzed again, this time with a different voice. The guard from earlier. Only the voice didn't sound worried. It sounded cooperative. "South exit clear. He's heading your way." Adrian stopped dead. "Derek." "Who?" "Former Harwood employee. He infiltrated my security team." Another betrayal. Another hidden thread. "He's helping Marcus," Adrian said. "They're working together." The villa lights flickered violently, then cut out completely. The entire house drowned in darkness. Lena reached for Adrian instinctively, and he closed his hand around hers. "Stay close," he whispered. Footsteps approached from two directions. Marcus on the stairs, Derek from the lower hall. They were trapping them. Adrian pulled Lena into the shadows of the glass-walled conservatory. Rain pelted the roof, casting fractured patterns of light as the storm rolled in again. From somewhere in the dark, Marcus spoke softly, chillingly, "Bring me the girl. Kill the rest." A bolt of terror racked through her, but Adrian stepped in front of her, shielding her completely. "We end this," he said. "Tonight." A crash shattered the air, Derek breaking through the side door. Adrian grabbed Lena's hand and sprinted across the conservatory toward the emergency exit. Derek lunged at them from the side, but Adrian shoved him into a marble pillar with brutal force. They barreled into a back hallway, but as they neared the last door, it slid open on its own. Marcus stepped into the frame, blocking their escape. His silver watch glinted under the emergency lights. Lena stumbled backward, but Adrian held her steady. Marcus smiled slow and cruel. "End of the line, kids." The emergency override panel behind him flashed red 5 minutes until full system domination. Thunder shook the villa as Adrian positioned himself between Marcus and Lena, his voice a low growl. "This ends with you." Marcus tilted his head in amusement. "We'll see." The rain lashed the glass behind them. The storm raged, and the seconds kept falling away. Rain slammed against the conservatory glass as Marcus stepped deeper into the hall, his silhouette framed by flashes of lightning. Adrian positioned himself between Lena and the intruder, shoulders squared, body coiled with purpose. Nothing about him looked cold now. His eyes were alive, burning with a fury he had spent too many years trapping beneath ice. "Give me the key," Marcus said, tapping the barrel of his gun against his palm. "And she walks away." "You don't want the key," Adrian said. "You want what it unlocks." Marcus smirked. "Smart as ever. Shame your brother didn't share that gift." Lena felt Adrian stiffen, an almost imperceptible tremor running through him. Marcus had struck exactly where he wanted at the pass Adrian could never rewrite. In the heartbeat of stillness that followed, Lena made a choice. She stepped forward. "Stop hiding behind the dead," she said. "You killed my father to get what he knew, and now you think you can erase me too. That ends tonight." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Brave. Stupid but brave. His attention flicked toward the small glint of metal in Lena's fist, the 17A key, and in that instant Lena dropped it. It hit the floor with a sharp ringing clatter that echoed down the hall. Marcus's gaze snapped downward. Adrian moved. He collided with Marcus in a violent burst, knocking the gun aside. The two men slammed into a glass display case, shattering it in an explosion of shards. Lena dove to the side as a stray shot cracked into the wall. Derek stumbled into view from the corridor, dazed but recovering fast. Lena grabbed the fallen key and scrambled behind an overturned table. She heard the brutal impacts of fists, the grunt of exertion, the crash of bodies slamming into furniture. Adrian fought like a man who had finally removed the last barrier between himself and his rage. Derek charged toward Lena. "Give it to me!" She threw herself sideways as he lunged, grabbing a broken piece of glass from the floor and slashing at his arm. Derek shouted, stumbling back. She darted toward the staircase, but Derek caught her backpack strap and yanked her hard. "Stupid girl." A blur slammed into him. "Adrian." He ripped Derek off her and punched him once, just once, but with enough force to drop him instantly. Lena staggered breathless, but before she could regain her balance, Marcus grabbed Adrian from behind and slammed him into the wall. "You should have stayed numb," Marcus hissed in his ear. "Feelings get men killed." Adrian twisted free, rage blazing across his face. Not this time. He drove Marcus backward, pinning him against the marble fountain. Lena watched frozen as Adrian wrapped a hand around Marcus's collar, fists clenched so tightly his knuckles blanched white. Marcus choked, struggling, but Adrian didn't loosen his grip. "You killed my brother," Adrian said, voice raw. "You destroyed my family, and now you want hers." Marcus coughed out a laugh. "Then finish it. Be like me." Adrian raised his fist. Lena rushed forward and grabbed his arm. "Adrian, stop." His breath heaved. His hand trembled. Marcus's smirk widened, waiting for the line to break. Lena stepped between them. "If you kill him," she whispered, "my father's truth dies, your brother's truth dies, and we become exactly what he wants." Adrian froze. Slowly, painfully, he lowered his fist. Footsteps thundered from the main hall, police alerted by the silent panic protocol Adrian had triggered. Officers swarmed the room just as Adrian stepped back, letting Marcus collapse into their custody. Derek was hauled away unconscious. And just like that, the nightmare ended. Days later, Lena and Adrian stood inside the hollowed-out remains of an abandoned subway station. The locker key trembled slightly as she slid it into the rusted lock. It clicked open with a soft metallic sigh. Inside lay a stack of hard drives and a sealed audio recorder. Lena pressed the play button. Her father's voice filled the silent tunnel. "If you're hearing this, I failed to stop them, but you still can. Trust Adrian Vale. He is one of the few who can bring the truth to light." "I'm sorry, Lena. I tried. I tried so hard." She covered her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. Adrian placed a steady hand on her back, not cold, not distant, but grounding. "We'll finish what he started," he said softly. When the reports went public, the financial empire Marcus built collapsed overnight. Names of corrupt executives flooded every news channel. Arrests followed. Investigations widened. Lena's father was cleared of wrongdoing posthumously. Through it all, Adrian never left her side. One evening they stood together on the rooftop of his main office tower, watching the city lights shimmer like distant fires. "It's strange," Lena whispered, "how one moment can change everything." Adrian looked at her, really looked. "You knocked a knife from a thief's hand," he said, "and somehow knocked down every wall I spent years building." She laughed softly. "I didn't mean to. I'm glad you did." The wind carried their quiet warmth across the rooftop. For the first time in years, Adrian smiled. A real smile. Lena leaned against him, her eyes on the glowing city below. "I wonder how many people out there had their lives changed by one small, unexpected moment." She didn't speak to an audience, but her words drifted outward, soft and inviting. "If you've ever had a moment that changed everything, big or small, I'd love to hear it. Share it in the comments. Your story might touch someone else's life tonight." She looked up at Adrian, fingers brushing his. "And if you want to stay with us for the next journey," she whispered, "don't forget to like the video and subscribe. There are more stories ahead, and I want you here for all of them." The city hummed below them. A new beginning, quiet, fragile, and full of possibility, waited just beyond the horizon.